I want to thank you for your patience. There's been a series of unfortunate technological events that have kept me from getting this video out to you. For that, I apologize. It also has run into today's webinar, so it's not going to be tonight. It's going to be Thursday night. It'll be the same link and everything like that. The reason for that is partly I want you to digest this first. They stack on each other. They build on each other. And really wanted you to have some time with this one before we got into the deeper stuff. So the next webinar, which will be about how to build your packages and how to design your talks, will be Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Also Sunday, there will be a special live Troubleshoot Your Practice event where I'll just field whatever questions you have, whatever weird things are going on with prospective clients or situations you didn't know how to handle or situations you felt you could have handled better. And I can tell you how to navigate through all of that. I've seen some stuff after 10 years and 400 clients in 6-month programs. I have seen quite a lot. And I can probably easily pull something out of the system that I've put together for you to answer that, whatever question that is, and to provide a solution. But let's get into tonight, this particular video. What we're going to talk about is mainly the 3 critical components for you to actually make 6 figures. And I'm also going to demystify what 6 figures means and how to actually get there. And we'll talk about a couple secrets that most practitioners know who are successful anyway. At the end of this, you might say, gosh, that seems really easy. I can do that. And go for it. I love it. And there's a reason that a vast majority, I think nearly 70% of all coaches and holistic practitioners never make more than $25,000 a year from what they do. It's because they haven't actually figured out the how piece. They might know what, but the how part, that gets really tricky. And I'm hoping to provide as much for you as I can in the course, save you all the time and headache and energy and gosh, all the money I wasted, not just on training, which wouldn't be a waste at all, but on deals that didn't get signed because I didn't know what I was doing on the business side of things. I was an excellent, extraordinary healer, but I had no idea, and nobody else did either, frankly. Nobody was teaching us how to build a business a decade ago. Maybe there was 1 or 2 out there, but they were really hard to find. And so I had to bump into a lot of walls, and I had to stumble around, and I lost a lot of money on those mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm hoping to save you from making the same mistakes. At least make some more interesting ones. So that's what we'll be talking about tonight. And the way you usually get the most out of me in general is to ask questions repeatedly, as many questions as possible. What that means to you in this format is that, feel free to use the contact form on the website. It's right there to the upper right corner, I'm sure, as you look at the video. I love questions. Not only will you get your question answered, but you'll help me improve the material because I'll realize things that should be included. But you'll help whoever else out who has the same thought but didn't speak up. But for the most part, ask challenging questions, good questions, meaty questions. Not superficial questions, but really, what is it all about? How do we do it? What does it mean for me? So my request of you is to keep your mind open, but keep it working. Don't ask yourself if I'm talking about or suggesting applies to your particular business, whatever particular modality you use, but rather how it could, or how it would, how it does. Because there's always some degree that will work. I have it that it works for all of holistic businesses, but some of it does take a little customization. Here's how to contact me very quickly. healers.evolveco.com or evolve-co.com /contact form. You can just see that there on the screen. You can come back to this if you need to. And those are direct for me, still. Great. Let's demystify the 6-figure practice. Get this monkey off our back. What does it take? Here's what it takes. It takes signing 2.5 clients per month to a 6-month agreement at the standard hourly rate of $150 an hour. Now, in large metropolitan areas, That's not a lot. That's, I see these kids coming out of the Coaches Training Institute and hang out their plank and they're charging that much. So certainly if you are seasoned, if you have a lot of depth of knowledge or multiple modalities, or you just plain seen a lot of people, then you can adjust that price. And I recommend anybody adjust it so that they're a little bit uncomfortable. You want to be a little bit uncomfortable with your rate, to stretch yourself, to expand into feeling like you deserve that. So that's all it takes, 2.5 clients a month. You got to do that every single month. And in 6 months, you'll be on pace, or in business they say at a run rate, to make $108,000 a year in the following fiscal year. So it's about 18 months till you actually collect, $100,000, 108, but not too shabby. And it's very systematic. There's nothing special about me or about the way I've done this. I figured it out, but the system just works. Several times I've stopped my business for various reasons and had to jumpstart it, and I just dropped right back into the system. The system works. Started from scratch, and within 2-3 months I'm signing deals left and right with clients. So it's something to strongly consider. But how? How do we go about that? Here's some of the how. And there's 3 critical components. These things really are not negotiable. You have to have them if you want to make as big of a difference as you can in the world, which often translates as earning potential as well. But there's a reason for these 3 components. They're so critical. And the one organizing principle. And here they are. The principle is being a living example of the work that you do. And we'll get into this in a few minutes, a little bit more detail, but have a comprehensive offering or series of sessions. We'll talk about that. And have a sales system and actually use it. Part of it would be formalized referral systems, which I strongly urge you to develop. And then the third component is to provide free value. Might be something like this, might be a webinar, might be a talk. In-person talks are the most rapid way for you to build your business if you're in the business of personal development anyway. So there's a couple reasons for this. One is there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of people out there. People want to get a sense of you. They want to get a sense of your style, I like to call it. Let's break these down for you. First, the principle, really the background, the canvas, the ground, the platform, whatever it is that you're coming from. This principle is to be a living example of the work that you do. For instance, don't be teaching communication skills and be screaming at people, as a behavioral pattern. Don't be a chain smoker and helping people with addiction cessation. Don't be morbidly obese and working with people around diet. And have done it yourself, or at least know that you've had enough experience where you could, or you can, of course, occasionally a client will ask me to do something that I've never done before, and I say, well, this really is my area, but I've got a couple of ideas, and I'll tell them, and then they say yeah or no. But I never count on those, by the way, as part of the business. It's just extra credit, extra gravy. But be a living example of the work that you do. To be out of alignment or out of integrity with your espoused beliefs and values isn't going to fly very much longer, I don't think, in this world. As we reach the integral age, the age of authenticity is also emerging. And that sort of requires a level of integrity with ourselves. Clients are assessing this all the time, by the way. They know if you've got an area handled or not. They can tell. They can tell by the look on your face when you think about it. And it does erode slowly. So pick what you're really good at. Be really clear with them up front when it's not an area that you're used to or an area that you spend much time in. But remember just to focus on service and you'll be fine. Be authentic. Be you. So let's get to these 3 components. These 3 darned components that we can't get away from. The first is you have to have a comprehensive offering. You do that for 2 reasons. First is the financial sustainability of your client. Like they honestly cannot afford it. then that's understandable to do something shorter, but you need to hold a constant context for change. You wouldn't go to the chiropractor once and expect your posture to be transformed. And you wouldn't go to a webinar once and expect your life to be transformed. I mean, if you did, I'm sorry. And here's what's true about those big weekends where everybody goes, yeah, and they walk on fire and stuff like that. And I've been there, and I used to help sell those tickets, and I understand. That's a state that fades, though. And so what happens is we set up this artificial expectation. We made it up that we're supposed to be a certain way by a certain time. Except it doesn't always map with reality, especially where technology is involved, right? But we make up this arbitrary standard, and then we judge ourselves or judge others against it. Usually ourselves, though. And most of us know that self-to-other comparisons aren't very useful. There's always somebody better off than you are, and there's always somebody who's not as good as you are. In any context, there's always somebody ahead of you and somebody behind you. So it doesn't make any sense to compare yourself to others. You compare yourself to yourself through time. That's a much more useful comparison. But a more insidious and less obvious, much more subtle way to judge ourselves against others is to judge ourselves against a fantasy ideal that we created. And this is what happens when we expect ourselves to not look at, let's say communication skills as a physical skill that needs to be learned. Coordination with it, learning to master it, all the little subtle movements. I think all those metaphors work really well when we think about navigating our interiors or any sort of change, really. If you're moving through stages, then there's going to be some awkwardness when you come to a new one, because there's new furniture to navigate, as it were. But nobody would go to a chiropractor or a physical trainer or anything else and think, I'll be transformed in a week. It would be silly, right? We'd laugh at them. We'd laugh at ourselves. We'd think that was ridiculous. But we do it in this domain, and this is also a physical capacity. By the way, you also get financial sustainability, which also serves the client because you get to focus much further ahead. It's actually very good for the client, for you to be not worried about money, but to be worried about, well, not worrying, but to be focused on what's next for them and what's 3-4 sessions ahead for them, which I'm fond of doing. Several sessions ahead. I know that there's a piece that they need, but they can't quite hear it yet, and I know exactly where it's going to fit in. Also, they're just totally committed, and really, you're both in it. It's a partnership. It's actually a very intimate relationship. I think a lot of people overlook that. And then the next component is to use a sales system. Frankly, I don't care what sales system you use, although I think mine is more effective in this particular domain because it was born out of what was effective in this domain. I just simply modeled myself. At some point, I closed 50 clients in a row that all said yes to a 6-month program, and I stopped and I said, I should figure out what I'm doing. I should model it, and I did. And that's the system that you get in the training. Here are the organizing principles for evolutionary sales. You're not closing a deal, you're opening a relationship. You're not selling your services, and this one's tricky. This one actually even came up with a prospective client a couple days ago. She had sticker shock, I guess. It's actually the first time I've ever heard somebody have sticker shock about my rates. And she started talking about how much I was charging, and I simply said, well, you're not really buying my services. I mean, if your outcomes are worth that to you, then I'd say go for it, and I'll work with you on terms. I won't work with you on rate, but I'll work with you on terms. But if your outcomes aren't worth it to you, then we shouldn't do it. She's not buying my services. She's buying her outcomes and what that makes possible in her life. And that's true for everybody. They're not buying a course or a coaching package. They're buying a solution. They're buying results. They're buying hope at the end that they'll be significantly different. And they will be, of course. And then you need to demonstrate competence. And we'll talk about how to do that in the third webinar. You need to embody the fact that the money's secondary. And transparency is the litmus test for ethical sales. And there's another one I've recently added, which is that don't leverage pain. There's enough pain in the world already. Let's not add to it. Oh gosh, there it is. I did add it. No, there's no need to leverage pain and fear. You'll be just as effective, if not more, in this business by using possibility and vision to motivate them. Objections, by the way, they never come up. I don't teach people how to overcome objections because they don't come up really. And I'll give you a couple of tips and tricks, some things that people have confused in the evolutionary sales version, the evolutionary sales webinar. And one of them is sometimes they're not objecting at all; they're just talking out loud. But you're overly attached to it. You need the money. You're obsessed with them signing or whatever, or you're just taking it personally. You've collapsed the practical and the personal, and all they're doing is talking out loud, and then you try to justify something, and then suddenly you've created an objection where before they were just sort of processing. But if you do need to reframe, the truth is the most powerful reframe, if it's told with compassion from a place of care and concern. The third component, providing free accessible value like tonight. But your intros, your evening introductions to your work in person, a demo or a talk where people can actually get a sense of you, that's the fastest way to fill your practice and to keep it full, is to be giving at least 2 talks a month. I would recommend even 3. 4 if you can do it to different audiences. If they're different audiences, then you should have 2 or 3 talks in your back pocket that you can just give, anywhere between 30 to 90 minutes, depending on the venue, the context. And they can actually write themselves. A lot of people get confronted by, actually, I think this is hilarious. More people fear public speaking in America than death. So they'd rather die, most people would rather die than speak in public. I think that's funny. Spiders are number 3, by the way, in terms of phobias. But first of all, let me give you a little secret. Nobody knows how it's supposed to go but you. Nobody. Just you. You know how it's supposed to go. So you can relax. And I'll tell you something else from experience. You're never going to know what they're going to get value from. You might say something really weird or off the cuff, and for them, that was the most valuable thing of the evening. You'll never know. So I've really just given up. I'm just confident that I'll deliver value. It's usually really dense with value. And people respond to that. I just never know I've stopped guessing what's going to do it. And it certainly isn't what I think is most valuable. So just understand that. And we'll talk about some other inside secrets and tips in the next one. But for now, remember that. Nobody knows how it's supposed to go but you. You're the one with the script, that's it. Although I don't recommend a script, what I recommend is a really basic outline like this, where you talk about what you're going to talk about, and you're going to say why it's important, and you'll explain how to do it, which would be steps, or bullet points, or a demo, or an exercise for them to do together. And then what if, which is really a vision and possibility. Just imagine like that. And so let me demonstrate very quickly for you the format using the format. What we're going to talk about are these 4 learning styles or types. And the reason it's important is because it'll allow you to, at any moment, with just a few minutes notice, design a talk around any area that you have deep knowledge in. And how you do that is you simply cycle through these 4 learning styles or learning types. What, why, how, and what if. And just imagine how much more at ease you'll be, how much more fluid you'll be, and how much your income will increase because you'll be comfortable speaking, which is the bread and butter of filling your practice. So that is the model, using the model. So $108,000 a year, what does it take? It takes being a living example of the work that you do, having a comprehensive offering or series of sessions. I recommend 3 months or 6 months. We'll get into that in the next webinar. Use a sales system with a formalized referral system in it as well. And I'll lay one out for you in not the next webinar, but the following one. Provide free accessible value, not only so that they get a sense of who you are, but so they know that you're competent. They know that you have some insight that they can gain from. But I recommend using all of these: blogs, events, podcast videos, whatever you can. But nothing replaces the talks in terms of filling your practice quickly. In-person talks. So, upcoming webinars in this series: Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Packages and talks, the keys to filling your practice and keeping it full. And I'll be doing a rare troubleshoot your practice on Sunday. That should say Sunday. In fact, oh my gosh, it does say Sunday. Look at that magic. Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. It'll be at 404 Bryant Street, my office. Just email me for directions and to RSVP. And we'll get to that contact page in a minute. May 16th and 17th is the foundation, the emotional stuff, the self-esteem, all the stuff that everyone wants to skip over, but is so critical to getting out of your own way. And then we'll spend a weekend designing your offering. We'll spend a weekend teaching you how to sell without actually selling. We'll teach you how to present your introductory workshops and how to make the most out of those. And then we'll put it all together for you. In September, there will be 2 webinars to support your learning between each monthly weekend. It's a fantastic tour de force of everything that you need to know and to have to build your 6-figure practice. And here's the reality of it. You'll have everything you need. Everything you need. The knowledge, the systems really. It's the systems and the structures. That's really what you're buying. And you're buying being able to escape pounding your head against a wall and making a lot of mistakes and wasting tens of thousands of dollars and years of your life when I've already done that for you. So, and the reality is if you just sign one more client than you would have, then the course pays for itself. It's just one client. And you'll sign many more than that.